Building your wealth isn't a linear journey. Pushing your net worth from zero to your first $100,000 is mathematically harder than earning the next $900,000 combined. Charlie Munger described this grueling initial phase with characteristic bluntness, telling an audience that while the first $100,000 is a struggle, you gotta do it. This is the concept of critical mass. In finance, money operates on a different timeline once you hit a specific threshold. Before that point, you are doing the work. After that point, the money begins to do the work for you. Most people expect their wealth to grow in a straight, predictable line, but the reality is asymmetrical. The early years feel like a treadmill where you put in massive effort for minimal movement, while the later years see gains that seem disconnected from your daily labor. Failing to account for this lopsided math is why many people spend their lives working. They never accumulate enough mass to let the physics of compounding take over. At the start, your wealth generation is tied entirely to your physical presence and active hours. If you aren't working, your net worth isn't moving. Several forces act as gravity against the spaceline. Lifestyle inflation, buying a larger house or a newer car, and high-interest debt pull your progress back to zero every month. These forces create a trap. If you stop working, even briefly, your wealth stops growing, leaving you at the mercy of your next paycheck. Long-term investors view intense labor as a high-friction, temporary phase. It is a tool used to generate the speed required for escape velocity, the point where you break away from the gravity of your monthly expenses. This initial climb isn't a test of investment wizardry. It's a brute force struggle to accumulate capital faster than the world tempts you to spend it. To understand why the struggle is worth it, we have to look at the math of the foundation. Compound interest requires a significant baseline to become a dominant force in your life. This chart shows a $1,000 portfolio with a 10% annual return. That $100 gain is practically invisible. It wouldn't even cover a single month's grocery bill for most families. Now, look at that same 10% return on a $100,000 portfolio. The result is a $10,000 gain. Suddenly, your money is generating the equivalent of a part-time salary while you sleep. At this $100,000 threshold, your returns transition from pocket change into a secondary income stream. The math begins to do the heavy lifting that your physical labor used to provide. Feeding this engine requires a specific sequence. Maximize your income, maintain your savings rate, and deploy that capital into productive investments. The only way to reach this threshold quickly is to widen the gap between what you earn and what you spend. Every dollar added to the base shortens the time it takes for the math to take over. This is the philosophy used by Warren Buffett. He didn't just pick good stocks, he built a massive base of capital early so that the compounding could operate on a scale that eventually became unstoppable. However, math isn't the only factor. You also have to manage the opportunity cost of your time. Consider two investors. Person A begins investing at age 22. Person B waits until age 35. Even if Person B contributes more money later in life, they will struggle to catch Person A, whose portfolio had a 13-year head start to compound. Person B is forced to use more of their future physical labor to make up for the growth that Person A achieved effortlessly through time. Aggressive accumulation in your early years is the most effective way to push a portfolio past the $100,000 friction point before your window of time narrows. When you finally cross the $100,000 mark, the internal mechanics of your wealth change. Your net worth begins to exhibit its own momentum. This is the snowball effect. The portfolio's annual growth begins to rival, and eventually overtake, the amount you can contribute from your salary. In this phase, your passive income scales more predictably. Financial independence stops being a vague aspiration and becomes a projectable timeline based on your current rate of return. But the most significant change isn't the number on your screen. It's the shift that occurred while you were grinding from 0 to 6 figures. The effort required to reach that target forced you to develop specific habits, such as delayed gratification, the ability to ignore market volatility, and disciplined emotional control. Reaching the first $100,000 provides the capital needed for compounding, but the process of reaching it establishes the behavioral baseline necessary to keep it. The discipline you built during the struggle is what makes managing every future dollar feel routine,